ask you guys to count down from 10? All right, other nostril. Paul, it's not how you count to 10. I'm on to you. All right, so I take that thing, goes through here. I get these things. So we are going to learn more about chemistry later today. Maybe someone can give us a short explanation at this time. Let's see, 6 drops. So we'll rotate, another 6 drops on how this thing works. But we are in a lot of ways, living in an age of miracles here. So my name is Kevin. I'd like to welcome everyone to Psychedelics in the World. Thank you guys for being the Sunday morning crowd over the course of introductory remarks. In the next little while, people continue to trickle in. So we're standing here in what the Lenape referred to as the Isle of Mannahatta, which prior to the relatively recent arrival of the Dutch and English colonists who seized control of this land through violence, the ground we're standing on is a thriving natural ecosystem that used to have lakes, streams, boulders, dirt, animals, trees galore. We're not far from a place that used to be labeled on the old New York maps as the Collect Pond. It's a really nice spot for hanging out if you were maybe a deer stocked full of fish. But we've paved over that and put some buildings on top of it, including this remarkable auditorium, which is unusually for a 1,000-seat auditorium located in a basement, which explains the situation with partial seats that those of you who didn't arrive as promptly are going to find out about shortly. But anyway, we did want to start off with the safety briefing and remind everyone that the instant antigen rapid testing magic school bus is located right outside at the plaza again. Everyone entering this building has to be fully vaccinated. Masking is mandatory inside the Cooper Union at all times. No food or drink permitted. And just want to remind people, particularly if you've been to evening social events, if you're going to them this evening, it is absolutely possible for fully vaccinated boosters people to become infected and for that to be asymptomatic. The only way you will really know if you are not infected is to be tested. So we really recommend people do so at times when they know they're gathering in groups with a lot of people. So the testing wagon up top, I believe, is entirely complimentary. No one will be charged. So we recommend that people avail themselves of their services unless you, like myself, loaded up on a bunch of these while you were in Germany over the summer where they cost $3 and are available everywhere. We sometimes have things to learn here in the United States, which is going to be a theme for the day as well. In addition to COVID safety, we want to ask that everyone observe professional decorum here. We have a code of conduct that's located in the program, Safer Space Policy. It's on the website for those of you who like to spend a lot of time on your phone during the conference. But if you are made uncomfortable by another attendee, a staff member, a speaker, really anyone at all, you can ask for a supervisor at the registration desk. There's someone you can speak with confidentiality. You would not be the first person to avail yourself of that service during the conference. And we really welcome and appreciate anyone who does come to us to say, hey, this person said this thing, I thought it was inappropriate, or this person put their hands on me unwantedly and wouldn't stop hugging me, and it was really awful, and whatever it is, even if it's just a sharing and you don't know where this person is and they're gone, or even if you don't want any action taken, it's good for us to hear these things from the audience. So thank you to everyone who has shared, and we really want to do our best to make everyone here feel safe and comfortable. We also want to, remind people that if you've showed up at this conference on a Sunday morning with a computer, first of all, I'm sorry, because that's just not what Sundays are supposed to be for. If you have like a sack of gold bars or your ceremonial eagle feathers with you, please don't leave your bag unattended in the auditorium or other places here. It's great that the nasal swab situation. Pardon me about that. It's great that we have a lot of community trust in this room. We would also encourage people, just don't leave a sack with a computer or your special shamanic time travel fabrics unattended at your seat. Anyway, so today's forum is part of the 14th Horizons on Perspectives on Psychedelics conference, which has been held annually in New York City since 2007. There is one notable exception to that, which was, of course, 2020. So we are still, with that exception, the longest running and largest annual event devoted to psychedelics in the world. It's still worth doing the test, and it is good to be back. So our mission statement, which we had some time to mull over and boil down during the last couple years, is that our mission is to help the public understand the world of psychedelics. And to this end, we create live and digital forums, classes, and films that examine the role of psychedelic drugs and plant medicines in science, medicine, culture, spirituality, and now with the start of this year, industry. So Horizons Perspectives on Psychedelics is produced by Horizons PBC, a public benefit corporation based in New York City that works in partnership with Horizons Media, Inc., a 501c3 not-for-profit educational charity. So we are honored to be hosted here by the Cooper Union, which for over 150 years has been one of the country's leading art, design, engineering, and architecture academies. The room we're located in, the landmark Great Hall, was built in 1859 and is one of the most prestigious auditoriums in the nation, having been graced by Abraham Lincoln, Mark Twain, Frederick Douglass, Susan B. Anthony, and somewhat more recently, Barack Obama, although that is now kind of starting to feel like it was a little while ago, and a lot of stuff happened since then. Apologies to everyone who also heard that joke yesterday morning. I also wanted to thank this year our conference sponsors who have really helped us grow and also allows us to offer scholarship opportunities. This is a particularly challenging year, and the stability that some of these sponsors offer to us is really helpful. Our title sponsor for this year is Vine Ventures, an early-stage venture capital firm focused on psychedelics and other novel approaches to conscious health and wellness. It's worth noting that they just announced at the Business Forum on Thursday a $70 million funding deal for MAPS, which allows, it's very uniquely structured. It's not a donation, nor is it an equity deal. It is revenue-based financing in that in exchange for supplying MAPS PBC with $70 million, they will receive a percentage of sales for the first X amount of years after MDMA becomes a prescription medicine. But they will not receive a board seat. They don't receive equity or voting shares. It allows MAPS to get the money they need to grow while still maintaining governance control over their organization and remaining fully directed by their board. And it's a really remarkable, innovative way of doing things that I think, honors the spirit of the kind of ideas we try to put forth at this conference, and that we're going to find new solutions to expand access to psychedelics safely, responsibly, and ethically. And there's no playbook for a lot of this stuff. We're going to have to invent ways of doing this. We also want to thank Journey Clinical, the day sponsor for yesterday's Focus on Clinical Research Forum. They provide telehealth prescriber services for therapists seeking to offer psychedelic therapy through their practice. And we also want to thank Curated Mental Health, a new mental health collective in clinical practice in Manhattan, who is the sponsor of Thursday's Business Forum, and on Tuesday morning called us out of the blue and asked if they would like, through a sister company, to send a free testing service for COVID for the entirety of our conference. So that is a great mitzvah that we thank Curated Mental Health for. And we're also furthermore graded to our supporter sponsors, MAPS, the Nikean Foundation, Trip Therapeutics, and the Usona Institute, and of course Trip Therapeutics being TRYP. And we want to thank our friend sponsors, Be More, Ceruvia, Chacruna, who you're going to hear more about in a minute, Dr. Bronner's, the Hefter Research Institute, JLS, Journey Clinical, the Psychedelic Science Funders Collaborative, and the River Styx Foundation. And we'd also like to thank our community allies for the work that they do in helping get word out about our conference. There's a listing of all of the sponsors and the community allies in the program, which I will read here for posterity. Autistic Psychedelic Community, Black People Trip, the Boston Psychedelic Research Group, Brooklyn Psychedelic Society, Double Blind, which I believe all of their copies have sold out of in the lobby, Sarah Rose Siskin's Drug Test, the Fireside Project, Frequency, the Hudson Valley Psychedelic Society, ICEERS, who you're going to hear more from later, the Intercollegiate Psychedelics Network, Lucid News, Naropa University, the New York Psychedelics Society, North Star, who co-produced our Thursday Business Forum with us, the Open Center, the Plant Medicine Coalition, Plant Parenthood, clever name, Psychedelic Seminars, Psychedelics Today, the Source Research Foundation, Students for Sensible Drug Policy, and the Yale Psychedelic Science Group. So, with acknowledgments out of the way, we're gathered here for Psychedelics in the World today. We're going to be in this session till about 1 p.m. We'll break for about 70 minutes for lunch, where you'll be released into the wild to fend for yourselves. You can find most cuisines in the world within a few minutes walk of here. If you're sitting down to dine, you might want to let them know you're on a schedule, ask for the check to come with your food. Following lunch, we really encourage you to be back here at 2:15 p.m., which, because you're the people who arrive first thing on Sunday morning, means you probably will be. At which time you'll get the big story of mescaline from Mike J., whose new book is out now in paperback and available for sale in the hallway. And I might mention that Mike is one of these people we've been trying to bring to Horizons for 2 years now. And we're really excited to have him here, as we weren't able to accommodate as many international guests as we wanted. And it's really great of Mike to stick with us through this process and come all the way here from England. So, while you're at lunch, please don't lose your badge. It's kind of Sunday, we're on the downhill. You no longer have a whole night of going to a thing and worrying about finding it in the morning. If you made it into this room, you at least cleared that hurdle. We're going to distribute plenty of photos and video following this event. Everyone in this room will be able to have live stream playback. And in order to enjoy and be present and to not distract people around or behind you, we kind of discourage all photography and prohibit flash photography. And if you really need to make a video clip, for instance, because you're the parent or child of a speaker, please limit it to just a few seconds to have the memory. We also want to ask everyone to turn off your phone. If you're watching this on live stream, I guess that's optional. It's kind of up to you. But for those of you that are in this room, my phone has 3 different ways of stopping it from making noise. There's a little tab on the side, then there's like a half moon kind of icon, and then there's a volume slider. I'm still not entirely clear how all those 3 different phone silencing measures relate to one another, but I use all of them. And I'm amazed to have to say this, but I know it's been a couple years since a lot of people have been to large social events. You cannot answer your phone in the auditorium. And maybe some people were unclear yesterday, but if your phone is vibrating and you've put your phone on silent, that's the first step. But the second step is actually to not answer your phone when it silently rings. And I wanted to make sure we were closing that loophole today. We also want to ask that, the day is going to fill in pretty quickly. In this long and kind of noteworthy Alice in Wonderland style hallway outside the auditorium, there is quite a bit of sound bleed into our room here. If you want to hang out and talk to someone, you can go to the strangely shaped Alice in Wonderland room over there in that corner. But over here along the doors to the auditorium in particular, in the little cluster by the bathrooms, we ask that you keep it down and find somewhere else to talk if you need to. And it does look like we have been, really blessed by another blue sky day. Skip a couple of things here. Ooh, looks like I am not positive today. This is great news. So, we ask that everyone just continue to be patient, be kind with our staff, with support team members you might be emailing with people who work for the venue, with people who work for the restaurants you're going to visit at lunch. This has been a really challenging time for people who work in events and hospitality and in production. We haven't had a lot of time to put this together. We've had half the resources, half the time, twice the pressure, a lot of curveballs. It's been a very hard set of years for people who are, for instance, verifying vaccination cards at the entry to a venue, or people who serve you at a restaurant where half of the staff hasn't been able to show up that day. So please be patient, please be kind, please treat people as your peers and fellow community members, and not merely someone who is there to see you as a customer. But today, we are going to talk about psychedelics in the world. And this is what I think is actually in a lot of ways the most interesting day of the conference. And right now everyone wants to talk about empirical biomedical science. People are very excited to talk about, all of a sudden, money. But the fact is that psychedelics have been used for many thousands of years, which is a verifiable archaeological fact. They predate the practice of modern science, and that most people to date in the world, both who are still among us and those who have passed, who have ever used psychedelics have done so outside the confines of clinics, outside the confines of studies. Even these very large studies that are now being discussed are limited to a few hundred people, and it bears worth mentioning that that number is always probably going to be dwarfed by people who choose to use psychedelics outside of a medical context. The largest psychedelic society in the world, to my knowledge, is actually the Native American Church, which has hundreds of thousands of members. Millions and millions and millions of Americans, a percentage of the population, have used psychedelics during their lifetime. We have a lot to learn as we scramble to put together extremely complicated and very expensive models for access to psychedelics in science and medicine, from communities that have found ways to use them safely, responsibly, across generation to generation, the bonds of family, trust, respect, tradition. They don't have the kinds of problems that we do in the consumer society, where people would gladly put sheets of LSD on sale at 7-Eleven with promotional discounts. In the communities that really understand these things and have understood them for a long time, they're taken very seriously. They conduct themselves with responsibility. We have a lot to learn from them. We also have a lot of acknowledgement to make for the people who make psychedelics available at tremendous risk to themselves and for motivations that, like other people in the above ground world, in the same way often mix a personal mission, a need to support oneself, perhaps a sense of adventure in doing something exciting for one life. And we're also going to hear today for some people, and one person in particular who has a really remarkable story to tell. So I hope that as we do continue to expand medical access to psychedelics and invent new regulatory models, and hopefully invent some new business models to support them, we not lose sight of the fact that historically, the key to the safe and responsible use of psychedelics has really been to have a strong, loving, trusting community, and that is also a viable model for providing safety, reliability, care, and stewarding these things from generation to generation. And with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce the returning moderator of our Sunday program here at Horizons, someone who's been gracing our stage going back to the days at Judson Memorial Church, and has been a friend and trusted advisor to the conference for many years, and is the founder and director of the Chacruna Institute, Dr. Bia Labate. One bar, negative.